Hello, Tim. Welcome to the SalesChange Podcast. So give me a bit of background on you. Obviously, I know you, but tell me about what you're up to now and what you've been up to in the past.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, obviously, we met through BVAA, British Valve and Actuator Association, and most people know me as being the MD of Zoedale, valve and actuator distributor and servicing and repair company. Before that, my background was in SAP consulting.
What's SAP?
SAP ERP system. So
Okay.
It's the software we use at Zoedale. So it does sales, purchasing, stock control, accounting. It's quite a well-known system, but I've kind of kept my hand in with those guys as well. I'm still on the board of the user group. I sort of grew Zoedale from. We changed the people, the process, the technology, changed the culture, and kind of got to a point where I almost made myself redundant. It's quite a nice feeling, really, sort of watching everything work. And then I sort of pursued a company to acquire us last year, where I sort of exited January this year, still staying on as non-exec director, but now I'm doing more business strategy consulting, leadership mentoring, and non-exec director work.
Nice. So tell, for the listeners, Zoedale are a valve manufacturer or a valve distributor?
Distributor, yeah.
What was the company like when you first joined?
When I first joined, it was a profitable company, which was good. We had no debt, well known in the industry, been going for nearly 40 years. Culture-wise, it seemed to be every man for himself. There were some very talented individuals, some very good salespeople, some very good people in different departments. But the culture was really just every man for himself. We had to do a lot of work with technology as well, because when I joined, again, I kind of joined to put in the ERP system because we're running on some old legacy systems.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, it was a good, well-run company from a financial point of view, but from a people point of view, it was kind of lacking.
And where was that? So you say it was lacking. Was that because of the leadership that was before? And I don't want you to denigrate what was going before, because obviously you came in to do a job, but was it because there was just no leadership at the top, or was it because...
The leadership before was quite authoritarian, quite draconian, to use that word. And because the company was making good profit, I think the leadership tended to leave it alone.
Yeah.
And rather than upset staff by making changes and various other things, they kind of left as is.
Yeah.
So the money was coming in. We had some good key accounts, but there were frictions between staff members, which I kind of witnessed when I joined.
And what did you do to change that? Because this is the bit that I'm really interested in. Because when I got introduced to you at the BVAA, and I think it was a spring conference, and you were given a keynote speech on how you changed the culture at Zoedale, and that really resonated with me, because that's exactly what I do. And I am doing at Safi, is completely renovating or readjusting how people operate.
Yeah.
So how did you go about it?
I learned the hard way. I'd come from, as I said in my presentation, I come from an IT consultancy background where everyone I worked with loved change. Everyone I worked with loved software upgrades. We'd even get excited about the latest software upgrade on our phones and stuff. Into an environment where people had used the same technology for 10 years. They sat in the same desks for 10 years. They'd done the same job for 10 years, some of them. And I didn't really know a lot about people and culture and change. I just thought everyone liked change. So I learnt the hard way. So the first thing I did, rather than get to understand the culture and change the people, I came in and understood the processes, saw where we could make some improvements in the processes, change the processes and change the technology. The people came last. And that was my mistake.
And what would you do now?
Do the people first.
Go around and find out what everybody's job is and how.
Yeah, I mean, I did do that. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But really, day one, I came in and started doing process mapping. How can we improve these processes, which kind of came naturally to me. Yeah. If I was to do it again, and certainly what I did after we'd done the technology changes, because I mean, technology is constantly changing in Zoedale. We went through a period of sort of change in the people. We basically said, we defined a set of values that we wanted people to live up to. I got the staff to do all that. And then we started working with the staff. I like the phrase change the people or change the people. So some people changed to the new way of working. Some people said, you know what, this isn't for me. I don't like working here anymore. I can't fit in with the culture. So they moved on. Some people we unfortunately had to let go. That's kind of one of the worst parts of the job.
Did you find that difficult when you have to change the people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was difficult.
My background is I was in water treatment, and I was very successful, like normal salesperson out on the ground. And then I went and I jumped from a big pond into a little pond to try and find my feet and try and find a way that I could use my skills in a leadership role. And I did that, and I went into a business development role and then national sales manager role. And my skill was always to get the people on side first, so that I can get the results that I want them to do. And what I've used that to do is to then move into a general management role. And I think I did it the opposite way to what you've done, in that I looked at the people first.
You probably did it the right way.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the right way, because you have to upgrade processes and you have to upgrade the technology, but it's just a different route to do it. It was. I like to find out what makes people tick, so that I can then motivate or incentivize them in order to get elicit a response. We're going through the process now of changing processes. We've changed the technology, and the technology was done before I joined. There was still some dinosaur equipment in there. We had a fax machine, and we had an old style answer machine. We also had a typewriter on one of the desks.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was that backward.
Yeah.
But the people now, I believe, we've got in place are great, and the processes are now the thing that, and this is the bit that I struggle with, is the process, which is difficult for me because I don't like detail. So it's difficult for me to implement. So what would you say your biggest success was in growing Zoedale?
The success was definitely the culture piece, and the whole change of staff, because we had a few staff who we lost who were really, really good at their job, knew the products inside out, knew the customers very well, were top billers in the sales team, ran operations teams really well. But because they didn't fit into the culture, we kind of parted company on good terms. And we went through some really tough times trying to fill those gaps. People thought the company was going to fall apart. It didn't. So I'd say the biggest success is getting a team now and hearing the team say, this is the best team we've ever had. Everyone gets on well most of the time, but everyone works. It's like a machine. Everybody's got a part to play, and everybody does it smoothly.
Yeah, yeah. Were you scared when you were letting the people go that were top billers and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you just had to do it.
I had to do it, and people, no discredit to any of the guys that have left, because they were all good people, but when these people left, existing employees were concerned, but then literally 2 or 3 days after the dust has settled, wow, it's
the ceiling has been removed and such, and they've got the opportunity to flourish.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, because when I left the national sales role that I was in before Safi, I was obviously well liked because I'd built the team around me and the way that I wanted to do, but there was a natural ceiling because I was their boss and I wasn't going anywhere soon unless I decided to leave. There was a natural ceiling, so people weren't able to flex and see where they could fit into the company. Now I've left, I still keep in touch with the company, and we've had the managing director on one of the podcasts. Now I've left, people have fitted into roles that they didn't think they could fulfill. So it's trying to find a position for them. Yeah,
it's very rewarding as well to see people when you suddenly take away, as you say, that kind of glass ceiling. And I was of the mentality that different managers have different responsibilities, and they know what they can and can't do, what they should do. And people come to me and say, well, I've got this customer on the phone. What credit limit should I give them? Go and ask John. He's the financial controller. Oh, we've got a problem. This delivery's going to be late. What do we do? Go and ask Sue. And my what I used to say to the management team is, you make the decision and I'll back you on it.
Yeah, empowering the people.
Yeah.
How do the people that you managed see you?
Well, this is interesting. We do 360 feedback, or more like 180 feedback to the management team. Always get anonymous feedback on how we're doing, how we're living up to the values. And I think some of the anonymous comments that I've seen is that people like the freedom that I've given them. They like the faith I've given in them to sort of go on, and they like the way I've kind of pushed people into saying, you can do this. You're not just a whatever type role.
Yeah.
And I think some of them see me as sort of inspirational, I think, and in the way I've made some of the changes.
I from my limited perception of what I've seen you do and the speeches that you've given and the discussions that we've had, you are a very engaging and magnetic character.
Thank you.
And you're all right. And I think it's easy when you've got that personality to get people to do what you want them to do. And I agree. You are inspirational in terms of what you've done at Zoedale. So tell me about what you've got coming up next.
Well, virus permitting. Again, I've got a consulting practice called Consulting51 Limited. It's just me. I don't make any bones about it. It's just me. And what I do is I work with ambitious business leaders. I only work with people I believe in. I only work with people who I like and people who I think I can make a change to. And what I try and do is to help MDs or leaders in SME type businesses to do what I've done, helping them learn from helping them with the mistakes I've learned, not making the same mistakes I did, and helping them basically to get their businesses to a point where they can either sell a business or, I hate the phrase, but it's like the cliche, work on your business, not in the business.
Yeah. What does an ideal client look like for you?
I'm not picky with who I work with. It's more about the person. The person has to be the person who continually wants to learn, who continually wants to improve what they do, and is open to suggestions, but also brings their own suggestions to the table.
Yeah. Let me just read some of these questions. I'll cut this bit out. It sounds really flowy when we're having the conversation normally. I'm trying to find a question that would flow from there. I've asked you what an ideal client would look like.
What about the question of what sets me apart from other people in the industry?
Yes, that's a great question.
Okay.
So what would set you apart from anybody else that is doing the same thing in your industry?
That is a good question. I think there's quite a lot of people out there who call themselves business coaches, and no discredit to any of them. They do a fantastic job. The ones who I've encountered tend to have more like a one-size-fits-all type method. And some of the feedback that I've had from the clients I work with are that these people have never run a business. Unless you've been to bed at night worrying about the fact that you've only got 100 grand in the bank, you've got £600,000 worth of aged debtors, you've got £100,000 VAT bill to pay and £40,000 wages, unless you've had those sleepless nights, unless you've had to deal with actually sitting across the table from a dad of two and have to, unfortunately, let him go. Unless you've lived through that, how can you advise another business owner? So I'd say one of the things that sets me apart is my experience, that I can put myself in their shoes and really empathise with how it feels to run a business. I'd also say my professional training. Last year I went through the Institute of Directors Chartered Director Programme, which is an MBA level qualification in running a company, and went all the way on to become a chartered director as well. And I continue to learn. I'm currently doing a 8-week financial technology program with the Oxford University. I think it's just a mixture of experience combined with education and that hunger to continue learning.
I think learning is massively important. I mean, you're a big reader of books.
When I get time, I like them. I like audiobooks, but I have to concentrate. Otherwise, you can listen to chapter after chapter and forget what's happened. But yeah, I do. I always read educational books.
I find that with audiobooks. I mean, I like. I've said this previously on another podcast, but I've got about 6 or 7 books on the go, and I dip into one or the other, whichever takes my fancy when I get into bed. My wife hates it because I constantly order books and then put them on the nightstand, and then we'll read 2 or 3 chapters and then move to the next book.
What book would I recommend?
No, because we normally do that at the end.
Okay.
Where would you like your business to be in the next 5 to 10 years?
My consulting business, I would like to get to a point where I have, say, 5 regular customers who I'm working with. I'm also doing non-exec director services as well, so potentially 2 non-exec director roles. And I'd like to be in a position where I'm probably working 3 days a week out on client sites. The rest of the time will be spent doing sort of marketing and spending time with the family, really.
What's your go-to marketing method?
Go-to marketing method would be LinkedIn, followed by blog posts on the website, Twitter. I wouldn't bother doing any paid advertising at the moment, really. I mean, even in Zoedale, we got our paid advertising back massively. We do everything SEO now.
Yeah. Because you did a fair few exhibitions with Zoedale, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you have much success with that?
We did, particularly with the beer shows. Yeah. Some of the other ones, not so much.
Brewed your own beer.
Yeah.
Is that fun?
Yeah, really good fun.
Because we want to. I want to do exactly the same in Safi.
Yeah.
I want to have because I came to your premises at Zoedale and had sampled some of the beers, and I want to do exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think it's a gimmick's not the right word, but I think it's a great feed for clients to come and visit your premises.
We've still got the brewery there, and we did we do brew days with customers, not necessarily in the beer industry, people who just like to brew beer. So you got a customer on site for 4 hours, you brew beer with them, you show them round, build relationship with all the sales staff, and then 4 weeks later you give them 24 beers. So
yeah, I'm part of the executive committee for Safi, so it's the general managers from Peru, Chile, Spain, Germany, and then all the executive board that are in France. And it's a running joke that the Englishmen like beer. So I arrived at Santiago Airport for our executive committee meeting last October, and the first question I got asked was, should we go and have a beer? The same as when I arrived in France. I think it would be a great tool for us in the UK to have a beer brewing facility in Safi. Is it hard?
No. I taught myself in probably 3 brews. So 3 were undrinkable, the rest were okay, and then got better and better. And now, because I know the ratios now, literally the guy who came in to brew with us 2 months ago, I just threw the recipe together on the day. Because if you know the ratios of grain, water, hops, yeast, you're always going to turn up with something drinkable.
Is it fairly expensive to get started?
No. You can, depending on what you want to do. I mean, the homebrew kits that we used to sell at Zoedale, you could probably start with about $2,500, between $1,500 and $2,500 for a proper kit. But if you wanted to go cheap and cheerful, you can get started for as little as £100. Just put a pot on your stove, and the cooling process, you fill the bathtub up with ice and put the pan in there, and it's easy to do.
Yeah. It was a great way. It was a great way for me to network with Zoedale, and I know that you've given speeches at the BVAA about networking.
Yep.
Is networking big for you? Is that?
I'm not a fan of networking as such. I believe networking works when you are with a group of people who know you and know what you do and are happy to refer you. I don't tend to go to networking events where you stand up and go, "Hi, this is what I do. Here's a business card." I'm a member of a golf networking group, which is they're nationwide. It's called For Business. I'm a member of the London one. And because you're meeting each other on a regular basis, because you're playing golf with each other, probably meeting for beer in the evening as well, business gets passed. So networking is different to what it used to be maybe 10 years ago, when it literally was about broadcasting what you do and expecting something back.
Yeah, I think the old school approach of walking into an exhibition or a networking event and handing out your business cards willy-nilly, that's no longer...
No.
You can't do that anymore.
No. There's a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini, and one of the chapters in that is about reciprocity. So if I do something good for you, you feel obliged to do something for me. And that's more what networking's about now. So I like to find out what people want. What does your ideal customer look like? What does your ideal lead look like? And I'll find them a few leads, and then they'll hopefully pass them back to me.
Yeah, and that's the way that I do it. That's the way I do it personally. Yeah. And whenever I go into a business, so I did that with the water treatment business, and it worked very well. We increased the sales, and I think it's massively important to network within your industry as well, because friendships within the industry, and that's why I go to the BVA events and speak with competition and speak with all the companies that we're supposedly pitching against. But I think it's massively important to know your network and know your competition.
BVAA is a very good networking platform because we all know each other.
Yeah.
And it takes time for people to trust you and to trust you with someone who is potentially one of their customers. Because let's face it, if you refer your best customer to me and I do a really crap job, then they're going to be annoyed with you. So it takes time for people to trust you. And certainly we've been referred some good leads through BVAA members.
Yeah.
With the biggest order we had was 18 grand from another BVA member.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, I think if you dip out of that for any period of time and you don't participate, or you lose contact with the people who are influential, it's really difficult to get it back, because then they build a network that doesn't include you.
Yeah.
When you were growing Zoedale and you were obviously taking people out of the business and bringing people in, what was your go-to recruitment method? How did you bring in the right people? Did you have a method that meant that you had the right fit?
We did. We've got a written recruitment process. that we would do with people, starting with a telephone chat, just to basically see, do you sound like the sort of person we can work with? And more importantly, does it sound like an interesting role for you? Because if the person's not interested, it's not going to work. We would do a 2-stage interview process. Well, actually 3-stage, but the last 2 were in the same stage. So we do a first stage interview where we go through the CV, check dates, match up, outline the role. Are you interested in the role? Why do you think you would enjoy working in the role? If there's mutual interest, so they like us, we like them, we bring them back for a more formal interview. We get them to do a presentation to certain members of the team on. I used to do a presentation on, so tell us what you know about Zoedale, tell us what you know about our business, tell us about the Internet of Things and how you think that can impact on our business, because it makes them research. And then we do a competency-based interview. So describe a time when you've had to deal with X situation. Mm-hmm. Tell me about a time when you've had to deal with whatever else. So you're getting real-life examples from people. And we have a very detailed scoring matrix. Yeah. And everyone will score them. 30 to 35% of those marks are based on skills. The rest is all based on attitude, cultural fit, and whether we like them as a person. And then we all work out our totals, and then you got a score. And obviously a bit of gut feel goes into that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever recruited the wrong person?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever been duped?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think it's really difficult for leaders to admit that actually we make mistakes in hiring.
Especially in sales, because a salesman is a good salesperson.
Yeah.
In the interview, they're selling themselves.
And I've recruited some really bad salespeople. Yeah. Like they've sold me on the first interview, and I've like bought into their story. I'm thinking of one guy who, I've just come out of a divorce, and I had been divorced maybe 2 or 3 years, so I was like empathizing with him, which is what you do in a sales role. Yeah. And he came on, and within 6 months, I'd realised, no, he's sleeping in his car in a service station.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was that bad.
Yeah. My advice to anyone who's recruiting is to hire slowly and fire quickly. Yeah. If you realise that you made the wrong choice, I know it sounds hard, but just get rid. It's because they're going to do more damage than good.
Yeah, especially to the culture of the company. Yeah. Because if you allow underperformance, or you allow negative people to breed the negativity, it will damage the culture instantly.
Right. Yeah, culture of a company takes years to build and can take weeks to destroy.
Yeah, and if your people see that you are allowing that to proliferate throughout the company, then
totally,
they lose confidence in you. Yeah. How do you deal with negativity? Like both
in my person or with other people?
Both, yeah. So the question I was framing it was actually, how do you deal with negativity in the corporate and in your personal life? But if you want to take it as like internal negativity as well.
I've had some psychometric testing done, and I'm a very emotional person internally, but I give off nothing. So
I'm reading that in the interview. Actually.
I'm very happy. I am happy to be here, but it's interesting knowing that. But I can come in and be feeling really negative about something business wise, or I can be worried about something. But I'll always appear positive to the staff, because that's what you have to do. Yeah. And it's just a personal thing that I don't tend to give off a lot of emotion, and so that's just what I would do. From a company point of view, if somebody is being negative. And we have had situations where certain individuals will come in, they've had a shit day or a really bad meeting, or sales fallen through, and they're banging their desk and stuff. It's just to have a little quiet word and say, first of all, what's happening? Can we make it right? Yes or no? If not, let's move on. Because if you have these negative thoughts, they're going to ruin the rest of your day. So just park it. You've done everything that you can do, and you've lost that 50 grand order. Let's move on. Yeah. And just also explaining to them, or making them realise that their negative actions and their negative presence in the office could well be having an effect on other people.
Are you quite pragmatic and rational? I mean, with the current situation with the coronavirus, are you on the 50% of the country which is panic buying toilet roll, or are you on the other side, which is buying chicken that you need on the day?
I'm exactly that. I'll buy what I need, and if I get quarantine, I'll just get Just Eat delivery, probably Chinese as well.
Yeah.
So, very logical and pragmatic. That's me.
So you say you're not very good at communication.
No, I am good at communication. Yeah.
Let me rephrase that question. You say you're not very good at showing your emotion. Does that play into how you communicate as well? Do you work on how you communicate?
Because I have people can see me as having a very serious face sometimes. And my sense of humour is very dry. I can also be quite direct. And there were times in Zoedale in the early days when I said something to someone in a joking fashion, which they've taken really seriously and got really upset about. And I've had to be like, no, it's a kind of a joke. The fact I wasn't smiling doesn't mean that it wasn't. It was serious.
Yeah.
I have had to sort of learn that and just work with people. Whereas there's other people that wear their heart on their sleeve and, almost like a child, and they can go from being absolutely ecstatic to crying and kicking on the floor sometimes.
Yeah. And those are really difficult people to manage, I believe, because I feel that I have to... What's the right phrase without sounding derogatory?
You've got to be careful, haven't you?
You have to parent them in a way.
Yeah.
You have to parent them and sort of protect them from themselves.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to manage them in that way. But that's what you have to do as a boss. Yeah. The last question I want to ask before we move on to the SalesChange 5 is, so you've worked at Zoedale, you've done the SAP stuff, and you're working into Consulting51 now, which is your own company. If you were going to go into a business, what would be the 3 main actions that you would use in order to grow a business? So what would be the 3 go-to actions, like let's say a 3-step process that you would say, right, I'm going to do this, this, and this. So if you start at stage 1.
The first thing would be to get to know the people and get the people to trust and want to follow me, because you can't be a leader unless you've got followers. So there's no point turning up to a business and saying, right, everybody, we're going to grow the business, we're doing this, this, and this, because you won't get buy-in. So the first thing I would do would be to get to know the people, and included in that would be to run a series of workshops where we get them to sort of workshop their ideas on where we can grow the business, and involving literally everybody, warehouse staff, literally everybody in the company. We would get to do that. Work through those ideas with various team members and decide what we work on. That would be one strategy. The next strategy to grow the business would be to look at costs, fixed costs, analyze fixed costs, and cut costs. Because that's particularly in times like this when we're all going to be suffering lower sales, let's cut some fixed costs. Do we need the cleaners in 5 days a week? Well, probably at the moment we do.
We do at the moment.
That's probably a bad example. But yeah, just to cut some fixed costs would be another one. And the other one would be to look at lead conversion rate, because everybody's so desperate to get new sales leads. I want new customers. I want new leads. Well, hold on. You've got 5,000 people on your database, 3,000 which haven't bought you from it, 3,000 which haven't bought from you in a year. Let's contact them and win them back, because you already know them. So that'd be my 3 tips.